Ashtochashata Shri Srimad Abhaycharanaravinda His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parijakacharya Ashtochashata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Krishna, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam. So today we are reading from Canto 3, chapter number 26 and text number 16. Prabhavam paurusham prahu kalam eke yato bhayam ahankara vimudhasya Kartu prakritim iyushaha Prabhavam paurusham prahu Kalam eke yato bhayam Ahankara vimudhasya Kartu prakritim iyushaha. Prabhavam paurusham prahu Kalam eke yato Ahankara vimudhasya Kartu prakritim iyushaha. Prabhavam paurusham prahu Alam eke yato bhayam Ahankara vimudhasya Kartu prakritim iyushaha. Let's look at the word-to-word meaning. Prabhavam, the influence, paurusham, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prahu, they have said. Kalam, the time factor. Eke, some. Yataha, from which. Bhayam, fear. Ahankara, vimudasya, deluded by false ego. Kartuhu, of the individual soul. Prakritim, material nature. Iyushaha, having contacted. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It's here the translation. The influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted material nature. Let's hear the purport. The living entity's fear of death is due to his false ego of identifying with the body. Everyone is afraid of death. Actually, there is no death for the spirit soul. But due to our absorption in the identification of body as self, the fear of death develops. It is also stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37, Bhayam dvitiyabi niveshataha syat. Dvitiya refers to matter, which is beyond spirit. Matter is a secondary manifestation of spirit, for matter is produced from spirit. Just as the material elements described are caused by the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Spirit, the body is also a product of the spirit soul. Therefore, the material body is called Dvitiya, or the second. One who is absorbed in the second element or second exhibition of the spirit is afraid of death. When one is fully convinced that he is not his body, there is no question of fearing death, since the spirit soul does not die. If the spirit soul engages in the spiritual activities of devotional service, he is completely freed from the platform of birth and death. His next position is complete spiritual freedom from a material body. The fear of death is the action of the Kala, or the time factor, which represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, time is destructive. Whatever is created is subject to destruction and dissolution, which is the action of time. Time is a representation of the Lord, and it reminds us also that we must surrender unto the Lord. The Lord speaks to every conditioned soul as time. He says in Bhagavad Gita that if someone surrenders unto him, then there is no longer any problem of birth and death. We should therefore accept the time factor as the Supreme Personality of Godhead standing before us. This is further explained in the following verse. Jai. Bhaktivedanta Swami purports ki Jai. So let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhuter Mahatbe Yaima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamoshu Purusha Bhunkter Gunamsho Dashishodasatmaka Solang Krashishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me. Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Katha Amritam Satata Pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panktanam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. Hare Krishna. So welcome again to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 26, text number 17. Text number 16, we'll hear the translation once more. The influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted the material nature. So we've been hearing this beautiful and very intellectual conversation that is unfolding between Mother Devahuti and Kapila Muni. So Kapila Muni, after speaking about the various glories of devotional service, after speaking about bhakti, about how the path of bhakti is so glorious, he is now speaking about the basic principles of prakriti or material nature. So, in the previous verses, we see that Kapila Muni has spoken about the 24 different elements. Yeah? That is, so what are the 24 different elements? Do you all remember? Okay, so firstly, the three subtle elements, which is mind, intelligence, and the false ego. Would you like to repeat? Mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then we have the 5 gross elements, that is ether, repeat, air, fire, water, earth. Hare Krishna, Ghanshyam Prabhuji, all the best. So Prabhuji is leaving for the Mayapur Dham. So let us pray to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath for their blessings and for their guidance through his trip. So the 5 gross elements, as we saw, is, please repeat once more, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Then the 5 sense objects, that is the objects of the senses. Okay, now we know our 5 senses, yeah? So what are the objects of the senses? We will look at that first. Sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. Okay? So what are the 5 senses that give us the sound through which we hear? What is it that gives us the sense of touch? What is it gives us the sight or the vision? What is it that gives us the taste? And what is it that gives us the smell? So they are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So what are those? The ear, skin, eye, tongue, and the nose. Okay, so the 5 senses. Then we have the 5 working senses, okay, of the body. And what is that? The voice through which we can speak. Then our legs, arms, our reproductive organs, and the evacuating organs. Okay, so these are the working senses of the body. So far we have covered about 23 of them. Okay, that is the 5 gross elements, the 5 sense objects, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and the 5 working senses. And then we have the chitta or the consciousness. Okay, and then the 25th element is kala, that is the time factor. So Kapila Muni has been explaining that how all these 24 elements, okay, now when they integrate with each other by the time factor, which is the mixing element. So the time factor binds everything together. Okay, so through time or kala, which Kapila Muni is explaining to us, is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna himself. So through time, we experience this whole material manifestation. And in today's verse, Kapila Muni is explaining that the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Shri Krishna, is felt through the time factor, which causes fear of death. Okay? And why? Because the false ego is of the deluded soul has contacted the material nature. So when we are like literally going back to the basic teachings from Bhagavad Gita. So what do we understand from the Bhagavad Gita? What is our very first basic understanding? Anyone? What do you understand from the Bhagavad Gita? We are the soul, and what are we not? We are not this physical body. Yeah? So we are the spirit soul, and we have a body. So just like we are putting on a dress, yeah, like we are putting on a sari or somebody is wearing a dhoti. Like that, the body is an external covering for our soul. But when our ego, okay, when our false ego identifies with the body and thinks that we are this body itself, okay, then the fear of death arises. Why? Because we think that, oh, if I die, then, my body is, I'm gone, I'm finished. I cannot enjoy any more in this life. Okay? So when we think that we are this body and that we cannot enjoy any more and that our time has ended in this planet Earth, then we get a fear. Yeah, we become afraid. So, is there anyone who can say that they are not afraid of death? Is there anyone who can say that? Huh? Devotees, yes. So we have two answers. One, everybody is afraid of death, yeah, no matter what, at some stage or the other. Whereas the devotees who realize that whatever we are, our soul is eternal. Okay, so in whatever body a soul is encaged in. Okay, it could be an ant or an elephant or a peacock or a dog or a parrot or a human being. Death is just a change of service. Okay, so even Kadamkanand Swami Maharaj, we heard from one of his, beautiful, we have been watching his videos of how he left this world so gloriously. And Maharaj says that death is a change of service. So throughout the lifetime, if we have engaged ourselves in serving Krishna, then what happens? We are not afraid of death. Because then death becomes an opportunity for us to then take off and go back to Krishna with full speed. Because that is our original place, being with Krishna. But then devotees also have one more higher understanding, which is no matter where I am placed in my next life, okay? So that is Krishna's prerogative. Whatever Krishna wants for me, whatever Krishna decides for me, whether I have to be in this world or whether I go back to the spiritual world, wherever my soul goes, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm serving Krishna, then that is the ultimate perfection of my life. So, even Lord Shiva says about this beautiful time factor, which we are reading about in today's verse, in the Rudra Geet. So it is very similar to what we just heard in today's verse, so I thought we can hear that. Sa esha lokan ati chanda vego vikarshashi tvam khalu kalayanaha bhutani bhuter anumeya tattvo ghana valirvayuriva vishahyaha. That is, Lord Shiva is saying, my dear Lord, your absolute authority cannot be directly experienced, but one can guess by seeing the activities of the world that everything is being destroyed in due course of time. The force of time is very strong, and everything is being destroyed by something else, just as one animal is being eaten by another animal. Time scatters everything, exactly as the wind scatters clouds in the sky. Okay? So here Lord Shiva is glorifying the Supreme Lord in his Rudra Geet. And he's saying that how we can experience the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna through time. Okay? Because time is also destructive, as we are hearing in today's verse as well. So anything that is created, it goes through a process. It exists for some time. It is maintained. And then there is an end point. It has to end. Now, who is causing all this? The cause of all causes, who is Shri Krishna. Yeah, Sarva Karana Karanam. Now, we've also been hearing in our Shastras that this disintegration, this integration or creation, then the maintenance and the destruction, all this is being carried out by the 4 different amshas of Shri Krishna, that is Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Sankarshana and Aniruddha. So these 4 features of the Lord, they help in the creation, the maintenance and in the disintegration of the different material elements. So here Lord Shiva is saying that just as the wind scatters the clouds. Now when we look at clouds, sometimes it will look like the clouds are just in one place. And then if we closely observe, we will see that the clouds are slowly moving. And suddenly we will see that, one formation of a cloud, suddenly it just, it scatters away. How is that happening? Through the power of the wind. So just like that, even our existence on this world, okay, our body. So when we are born, we are a little baby. And then the body goes through different changes. It becomes a young boy or a young girl, it goes through that phase. And then they grow older. We become, we reach middle age. And then we reach old age. And then when the time comes for us, our body leaves this world. So a devotee who realizes that we are not, actually our soul is not going through all these changes. Prabhuji, can you sit somewhere here so I can see? Otherwise it's just so difficult. So when we realize that it is just the body that is going through the different changes and it is only the body that is going to die, then we are not bewildered, we are not worried. So we know the 5 subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, so it's like we are literally going back to some basic teachings from the Gita. So what are the 5 subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita? What do we learn in the Bhagavad Gita? What do we mainly study about? So the first is Ishvara. We begin with Ishvara, okay, the supreme controller. Then Jiva, which is the living entity. Then Prakriti, which is material nature. Then Kala or time. And then Karma, our activities. And we see about the relationship between each of these. So when we read about this, we understand that Ishvara or Shri Krishna is the supreme controller. And the Jiva or the living entity, which is a part of Shri Krishna, we also have the qualities of Shri Krishna, okay, but in a very minute form. So we are part of the superior energy of Shri Krishna. And then on the other side, we have the material nature, which is Prakriti, which is the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. Now, as time passes in our life, now the Jiva has 2 opportunities, okay? One, either to go towards Ishvara, to connect himself or herself more with Krishna, or to incline more towards the material nature, to be inclined more towards the influence or to come under the influence of the material nature.
And how? Through our different activities, which is karma. So the first 4 aspects, that is Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti and Kala, they are eternal. They don't change. Whereas karma can be changed at any point in time, which is why and how we have all come into devotional service. Because we may have all had different ways of life, as we have been growing up from the time we are born. But the minute some devotee came into our life, and once we started reading Srila Prabhupada's books, when we understand that Sri Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and my position is that I am a servant of Sri Krishna, and that I have to serve him. And that is my way of life. Once that understanding comes, then we change our course of action. We change our karma. Then what happens? We are not disturbed by anything. So even Kala, the time factor, doesn't produce fear, whereas the time factor gives us more opportunities to serve Krishna. So we see that, like just as we have to go back to the basic teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, we see that, Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. So as the soul passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. And therefore, a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So throughout our life, if we have been serving Krishna, if we have taken to the path of bhakti, then what happens at the end of our life? By Krishna's choice, either we might go back to the spiritual world to unite with Krishna, to serve with him in the spiritual world, or if Krishna decides that you take another body, still we will be in a better position than what we are right now. So our soul might still acquire a body that would be more conducive to serve Krishna. And therefore, a devotee is not bewildered by death. So, in the purport to today's verse, Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the 11th canto. So, what does he say? Bhayam dvitiya bhiniveshatasya Ishad apetasya viparyayo smritihi Tanmayayato buddha abhajetam bhaktyai gurudevatatma. So here we are seeing again that fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself with the material body. Okay? But when the living entity turns away from the Supreme Lord and when he forgets his constitutional position as the servant of the Lord, so that is when fear arises. But when an intelligent person engages unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and as his very life and soul. So, therefore, an intelligent person. So, Srila Prabhupada in today's verse as well, in the purport, he is saying, therefore, we know that death can approach us at any time. But at the same time, knowing that death is none other than Sri Krishna himself, without fearing death, if we simply engage in bhakti, then what happens? We are having the right understanding. Then we are not deluded. Okay? So, we also see that there's just so much here. So, let us look at the example of Bhishma Dev. Okay, now how Bhishma Dev left his body. So Bhishma Dev was a devotee of the Supreme Lord right from the beginning. So he was constantly absorbed on Krishna. So at the time of his death, he was able to remember Krishna very naturally because they were in the Mahabharat war and Krishna was right there in front of him. And how did all this happen? Because Krishna is also telling us in the Gita, Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaha. Whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once, attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So Krishna says that at the end of our life, as time passes, and when we are approaching death, we don't know when it will come. We might just even die right now. Okay, we don't know. Let's say supposing an earthquake happens or something, But we are right here at the lotus feet of Sri Radha Gopinath and we are speaking about Krishna. We are hearing about Krishna. We are remembering him. So when we are remembering Krishna at the time of death, then Krishna assures us that we will attain him. We will attain his nature. And he says, of this there is no doubt. Which is why we see these glorious devotees like Bhishma Dev, like Srila Prabhupada, like Kadamkanand Swami Maharaj, and many devotees even amongst us, whom at the time of their death, they are able to consciously remember Krishna. So, Krishna also says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. That is, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So that's why we see in the example of Jada Bharat, So when Bharat Maharaj, when in that past time, at the end of his life, when he left his body thinking about the deer, what happened? He attained a deer's body in his next life. But then in his next life, he became very conscious. So as even though in the body of a deer, he was able to remember his past mistake. And therefore, he tried to, in the body of a deer, he was trying to remember the Lord until the time he left his body, and then he gained the human form of life in his next birth. So we see that, in the beautiful example of Bhishma Dev, Now, Bhishma Dev says when he was lying on his deathbed, on the bed of arrows at the end of the Mahabharat war, and when Krishna was right there in front of him. What is Bhishma Dev saying? Tatapi ekanta bhakteshu Pashya bhupanukampitam yanme sumstyajata sakshat Krishno darshanam agataha. So Bhishma Dev is saying, yet despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor. So these are some beautiful examples that can inspire us. So Bhishma Dev, when he was just about to leave his body, now what did he see in front of him? The beautiful form of Sri Krishna. And he is remembering that form of Krishna as he is quitting his body. And what is he saying? Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinomyaham Prasannaha sarunalochano mukambujodhyanapataschaturbujaha. So Bhishma Dev is saying, may my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face with eyes as red as the rising sun is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. So Bhishma Dev wants to have that darshan of Sri Krishna, who's smiling, who's beautiful. And he is saying that I want to consciously remember the beautiful form of Krishna as I'm quitting the body. So, Bhishma Dev also says, let my mind now go unto the form of Sri Krishna. How? Yuditura gorajo vidumra vishwak Kachalulita shramavaaryalang kritasye mama nishita sharair vibhedyamana tvachi vilasat kavachestu Krishna atma. So Bhishma Dev is having this beautiful darshan of Sri Krishna, who on the battlefield, so as Krishna was forcefully driving Arjuna's chariot, what was happening? His curly locks of hair was just flowing. It was scattered and it was turning into grey by the dust that was arising as the horses were running. As the horses of the chariot, they were going with such full speed, the dust was rising and it was covering Krishna's beautiful locks of hair. And Krishna was sweating. But all this perspiration, the sweat on his face looked like a decoration. And Bhishma Dev is saying that as I was shooting my arrows, he was taking it on his chest. The arrows were piercing Krishna's armor, that he was wearing on his chest. Yet, he was enjoying that. Krishna did not get disturbed by those arrows. It was like flower petals that were falling on his chest. So Bhishma Dev is saying that my sharp arrows were being enjoyed by him. And this beautiful darshan of Krishna, may my mind go towards him. So we even saw in one of the earlier chapters, isn't it, when Varahadev was fighting with Hiranyaksha. Even though Hiranyaksha was giving big punches to Varahadev, now Varahadev was enjoying that, isn't it? Because it was like flower petals that were falling on his chest. Because the Lord wants to enjoy this rasa of chivalry, of the Virya Rasa with his devotees. So like that, here Bhishma Dev, at the end of his life, when he's just about to quit his body, he is still relishing this beautiful exchange of rasa with Sri Krishna. So like that, when we keep constantly serving Krishna, then Krishna gives us the understanding and he gives us his remembrance at the time of our death. So Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam enamamupayantite. Te. So those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So without that, it is not possible for us to suddenly remember Krishna when we are dying. Okay, so say for example an earthquake happens or somebody is driving or an accident or whatever, something happens, then suddenly they may not be able to think about Krishna. But throughout our life, if we have been chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then no matter what happens, in whatever situation we are, immediately the first words that will come out of our mouth will be Krishna, or Hare Krishna, or any name of Lord Krishna, Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, whatever. Okay, so just as Ajamila called out at the end of his life, even though he just called Narayana, who was his youngest son, but just hearing the name of Narayana, the Vishnu Dutas arrived there to get him. And the Yamadutas were just absolutely bewildered. They were wondering, who are all these beautiful forms who have come to take Ajamila? So like that, now we can see that we might be having a doubt. Okay, all of them are such great personalities. They can think about Krishna consciously. But what about us? We are just ordinary human beings. And even Arjuna had that same doubt. He was asking, how can I constantly think about you, Krishna? How can I see you? Like after hearing so much about Krishna, about how to attain him, he asks. And there Shri Krishna says how we can perceive him in everything in our life. So Krishna says, I am the taste in water. So when we drink water, we can think about Krishna. He says he's the sun, he's the moon, he's the Himalayas. So when we visit the Himalayas, when we go to the Himalayas, we can think, oh, this is Krishna. This is none other than Krishna. Where I'm right here in the Himalayas, and this is Krishna himself. Then Krishna says he is the wind. So when the wind touches our body, we can feel, oh, this is Krishna. And then when we are just breathing in, we can think, oh, air, this is Krishna. And when we are speaking to each other, we can see, oh, Krishna is in the heart of this person. Therefore, I have to be kind towards him or her. I have to speak very softly. I have to speak very sweetly. I should not become overcome by my other lower material natures. Like this, in every aspect of our life, we can perceive Krishna throughout our life. So we will end with this beautiful pastime of Gajendra, okay, of how Gajendra left his body. So Gajendra in his previous life was Indradyumna Maharaj. He was a king. And because once he was cursed by Agastya Muni, and along with his disciples who had come to see Indradyumna Maharaj. But because he was completely absorbed on remembering the Supreme Lord, he didn't pay attention to Agastya Muni. And therefore, Agastya Muni gave him a curse that you will be born as a dull elephant. But what happened? Even though that soul from Indradyumna Maharaj, when that soul went into the body of Gajendra, when Gajendra was caught by the crocodile, and when he was fighting for 1,000 years with the crocodile, and even though, he couldn't do anything, his wives or no one could help him. And at that time, he remembered this prayer from his previous life. And at that time, Gajendra says that Yakashchanesho balinonta koragat prachanda vegat abhidhavato brisham betam prapannam paripati yad bhayan Mrityu pradhavatyaranam tam imahi. So here Gajendra says the Supreme Lord, certainly not known to everyone, but he is very powerful. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time, which is fearful in force, which is what we have been seeing in today's verse as well. That time, Kala, as the forceful feature of Sri Krishna. Though it chases everyone, ready to swallow him, if one who fears this serpent seeks shelter of the Lord. So even though time chases us, when we surrender to the Supreme Lord, then the Lord gives him protection. For even death runs away in fear of the Lord. Why? Because now we can see that even death is Krishna himself. He comes in the form of death to take away his devotee closer to him. And then Gajendra surrenders. So we will end with this beautiful prayer that Gajendra offers. Nayasya deva rishaya padam vidur jantu punakor hati gantum iritum yatha natasya kritiber vicheshtato Duratyayano kramana samavatu. So Gajendra says, as an artist on stage being covered by attractive dresses and dancing with different movements is not understood by his audience, similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist, that is Sri Krishna, cannot be understood even by demigods or great sages, and definitely not by those who are unintelligent, like animals, that is, like himself, Gajendra is saying. Nevertheless, may that supreme personality of Godhead give me protection. So even though Gajendra was caught by the crocodile, and at the time when he knew that nothing can protect him, he was ready to face his death. But at that time, he completely surrendered to Krishna, and when he took his protection,